Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Before I begin, I would like to mention that this event is also being streamed online, so this will allow a wider audience to take part to the event and hearing the discussion. I would say that we are really fortunate to be joined by a really relevant panel of experts who have made really remarkable contribution to photonics and life science. So I will shortly present each of the speaker of the first session. The first speaker will be Nathalie Debas. She's Vice Coordinator of PhotonHub Europe network, and she's an electrical engineer with a focus on photonics. Her career spans optical engineer, R&D management, and currently she plays a vital role, as said, within PhotonHub Europe, but also ActaFast for .0 projects and networks in supporting SMEs in adopting photonics technologies. The next speaker will be Roberto Pini. Roberto Pini is a research director at the Institute of Applied Physics, CNR, and is a coordinator of the photonics cluster in Tuscany within PhotonHub Europe. He's really an expert in laser technologies, biophotonics, and nanomedicines, and has led major research projects on laser-assisted medical techniques and nanoparticle-based cancer therapies. And he also plays a relevant role as far as the technology transfer is concerned towards industry, and serve on several scientific committees, including Alizé Cluster, National Cluster, and the Tuscan Advanced Manufacturing District. The first session will be concluded by Alejandro Dominguez from Funding Box. I remind that Funding Box is coordinating the PhotonHub investor matchmaking activities. And Alejandro Dominguez is an expert in helping photonics startups to secure funding and scale their businesses. Alejandro will provide relevant insights as far as the investment landscape for innovative venture and photonics. So let's start with the first speaker, which is Nathalie Debas. Nathalie, please reach us here. Nathalie will present PhotonHub Europe, new technologies and opportunities for photonics to life science. Nathalie, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Laura, for this nice introduction. So I'm Nathalie Debas from Brussels Photonics. It's a research group from the Vrije Universiteit of Brussels. And I'm not alone here. Also, my colleague, who is now taking pictures, is with me. And it's really an honor for me to present to you the PhotonHub Europe project that really enables new technologies and opportunities from photonics to life science. As you may know, photonics is really the science and the technology that works with the unique properties of light. How light is interacting with material, with our blood or with our muscles, for instance. And photonics is there in our society under a lot of different formats, like with optical fibers, photovoltaics, also in the lighting, in the display, but also for sure in medical optics. And since the photonics, with that unique properties of light, can really help in innovating in a lot of different sectors, like in the food sector, sustainability, the IT, the manufacturing, also the mobility, and also in space and security. But for sure, we are here in the health sector, and photonics can really make there also a huge difference. Because photonics, as also set by the Photonics 21 PPP, has really the mission to help in further instant diagnosis of major diseases and not only in the diagnosis, but also in the treatment of them. And that we have also experienced in working with companies, also some of them startup companies, that have been applying these photonics technologies in their products or methodologies. Like for instance, iTech, they make like single-use endoscopes, and there we also contributed by a lens to improve the performance. Or Heartfelt, where we designed a 3D scanning system with macro lens array to detect if a patient would have a heart failure. Or Italray from Italy, where we improved also the procedures for software solutions. EricScan International, there we looked to the imaging for really detect the shear forces on the surface of the foot. Another Italian company, Cell Dynamics, where a light sheet with really specific properties improved the monitoring or cells in their system. Or those few, there we applied optical fibers for an in real-time dosimetry measurement. Amazec, there we used integrated photonics to include a temperature sensing. Or Timpani Medical, a startup from Ireland, where we improved the optics on their tip of their endoscope for a minimal invasive ear, nose, and throat procedure. For Fluidec, a German company, there we applied the fluorescence resonance for pathogen monitoring. Light Medical, there we did the optical design for UV spectral detection. Or NT Laboratory, with microfluidic discs, and there the optical system. And Axios Medical, a company from Austria, where we increased the speed and the accuracy to really analyze the blood gases and the glucose readings. So what have all these companies in common? They applied photonics to improve their products. And here you see the curve where they go through. They started with an idea. And then the main question is, how can I materialize this idea? Which photonics technology can help me the best? After the feasibility study is done, you want to have a good prototype to show that it has really potential. After that, you want to scale up. You need maybe business coaching, investment coaching, and the training of your employees. So there are a lot of activities to put in place to have this photonics innovation implemented. And here, PhotonHub can help you during that journey. With PhotonHub, that is subsidized with 19 million euros from the European Commission, we really aim to bring photonics in a lot of industry sectors. And we have therefore a lot of partners to serve that, to realize that goal. Also partners from Italy, like we have here also in the room. Here you see all the logos of our partners, but what is important is that we work as a single one-stop shop. So the companies do not have to scan entire Europe to find the right expert. They can come to PhotonHub to see and to be connected to the right experts in Europe that can help them in the orienteering, in the training, in the deep innovation support, business coaching, and even investment coaching. So our main focus is on the deep innovation support. that is the test before invest activities, where companies can really receive technology support. And we have a lot of experts in the field of photonics to support those companies. We form for each specific task, request from a company, a dedicated task force, and also we make available the photonics technologies. We have a lot of photonics technologies in-house. It goes from laser-based manufacturing to polymer-based optics, specialty fibers, MOEMs, also free space and free form optics, and also photonic integrated circuits in different materials. And in each of every platform, we have the complete supply chain. So we can provide the design, we can do measurements, we can make prototypes, and also entire proof of concept and prototype types. And what's really important is, and especially I think for startups it's important, that this is highly subsidized. So whenever we have a project on prototype level, the first 30,000 euro is completely waived. So the company can really receive that service for free. With a higher budget, we ask 25% contribution. And this contribution can go as high to 100,000 euros, and even a company can apply several times for a PhotonHub project. For upscaling projects, so whenever you have a prototype that really works well, and you want now to really make a lot of components, there we have a subsidy of 85%, so I think also very attractive. So how to access all that support? We made it, I think, as easy as possible. It's on our website. It's a simple form where you register your interest. We do then a call for having the technology orienteering to really check with which photonics technology you are served best. We have then also an in-depth discussion with an expert where we link you, and this happens under NDA, so that also confidential information is not leaking out. If after that this is successful, we go to a project proposal that is made by PhotonHub in consensus with the company, and then it's evaluated and the project can start off. So we are supporting a lot of sectors. Here you see a few of the companies that we have supported. From those companies are quite a lot also from the healthcare. And maybe I have still 1 minute. So what's also important is that we do not only offer the support for the testing before invest, but we offer also training. So online trainings are free. We have a lot of different interesting online trainings, and we have also trainings in person with hands-on in demo and experience centers. So in our demo centers, it's a one-day training on a specific application domain. In the experience center, you can have really also in-depth training on several photonics technologies. So you can find them on our site, but of course you are also free to contact us. So whenever you would like to start a journey with us and to profit from this large network of photonics experts, I would like to invite you to complete the application form, and then we can see how we further can help you. So with that, we would like to bring your ideas to the light. Thank you.
Thank you, Natalie, for showcasing the impressive way PhotonHubs can help really in driving photonics innovation. So next, I'm pleased to invite here Professor Roberto Pini. Welcome. Roberto Pini will speak on photonics innovation for life sciences applications. Roberto, the floor is yours.
Thank you for the invitation. For the presentation is quite a large and challenging title, so I will just show some examples, something just to demonstrate how photonics can be applied in life science and health. I am with the National Research Council of Italy, and I'm also coordinator of this photonic cluster of Tuscany within PhotonHub Europe. And Natalie has already presented the opportunities that offers this hub dedicated to photonics. I also underline that we have more than 100 experts from 15 member states. But in particular, I would like to present you in much more detail the Tuscan cluster, where we have 3 CNR institutes, the Institute of Applied Physics and the National Institute of Optics in Florence, and the Institute for Photonics and Nanotechnology in Milan, Padua, and other places. 1 university, which is Scuola Superiore Sant'Anna, the CNIT, which is the National Inter-University Consortium of Telecom, 3 large enterprises like Leonardo Company, Elen and Ericsson, and 1 industrial association, Confindustria Toscana. And so why photonics in Tuscany? I don't have to go back to Galileo Galilei just to demonstrate that there is a tradition in development and studying system, device, optical components, and so on. So these result in a product chain in the fields of optics, photonics, and optoelectronics. We have quite a large number of photonic enterprises, more than 100. I mean, they are not devoted only to photonics, but they use photonics for development of many instruments and technologies. About 4,000 employees. But we have also a large representative of researchers in the academia dedicated to photonics. They are in the 3 main universities in Florence, Pisa, and Siena, and for instance, in 2 smaller universities in Pisa, Scuola Normale, Scuola Sant'Anna, and in other CNR institutes in Florence and Pisa. The main industrial sector in Tuscany related to photonics are lasers, photonics for the aerospace, optical components, photonics sensor, and lighting. And there are just a selection of large enterprises. One of them is Elen, which is probably one of the largest laser medical companies in the world. They're also dealing with industrial lasers. The number of employees probably has to be double, and the turnover is around $500 million per year. And it was initiated by a professor of the University of Florence, Leonardo Mazzotti, who passed away 2 years ago. And this is an example how, I mean, starting from the collaboration with the university, and a company can rise this world level of technology. Okay. So Tuscany has been recognized as one of the European lighthouse region. Lighthouse means that photonics is included in the smart specialization strategy of the region. This happened in the first release of the smart specialization strategy. In the last one is not explicit mentioned photonics, but before it was ICT and photonics. And you can see that in Europe there are nations like France, Poland, Finland, and also the region of Tuscany is one of these lighthouse regions. So which are photonics technologies? This is a slide that I borrow from Natalie. Today, we are mainly focused on what she has called medical optics. I would like to call it biophotonics, where biophotonics is photonics for life science and health. So just to make a joke, I asked to ChatGPT which are the most important recent achievement of photonics in recent years. And I had these 5 answers, and I agree almost 80–90% on them. Well, worth noting is that the most important one I agree is optical coherence tomography, which is a technology that is used in ophthalmology, providing non-invasive imaging of the retina, but also of the cornea. And it completely changed the field of ophthalmology. And I have a message to start-uppers. You have to consider that the invention, the patent was started in the 90s, and then they had to wait more than 10 years to develop the first commercial system. So you have to work hard, because this is a typical timing that you are expecting to get the success. And now it's improving, and there are many changes, many new technologies regarding optical coherent tomography. Multiphoton microscopy is, in my opinion, still in the research side, but it could be very important for imaging and the diagnostics of neurological and cancer research. Photodynamic therapy is in the clinical phase. It's a minimal invasive treatment on cancer, of particular skin cancer. And it combines a photosensitizer, which is a dye or any other material that can be excited by light, to destroy cancer cells, for instance, in the case of cancer, by developing some toxic species of oxygen, which is the poison to kill in a very specific manner cancer cell. Biophotonics is also very important for diagnostics. So there are many technologies which are based on the early detection of diseases, such as cancer, infectious diseases, age-related diseases, which are very important. And finally, lasers. Lasers can be used for many surgical and applications and for many treatments. And here, I'm just showing you 3 examples, and nothing more than this, just to start a discussion on that from my institute, which is very easy because I've been working on them. And for instance, we have this application. Sorry. This one is a multiphoton microscopy of the cornea that permits to see the corneal layers and to understand if there is an early development of some disease like keratoconus, for instance. And this is the case of biophotonics for diagnostics. You can use biophotonics for therapy, for instance, using lasers or LED technologies. You can use the combination of photosensitizer or nanoparticles with light, for instance, for the treatment of tumors. And I also underline this part, artificial intelligence for health, because photonics can be combined with artificial intelligence, and I show you why. So here's an example of laser. With laser you can cut, you can ablate, what you say, you can remove layers, you can burn, but you can also solder tissue. So this is an application where near-infrared radiation with a non-toxic chromophore can be used to bond tissue. This was used to direct bonding of graft in a bypass surgery. This was done with the Neurosurgery Institute of the Catholic University in Rome to repair vessels in a microvessel surgery. And these are some examples of the application. This was done just in the preclinical phase on animal model, but we succeed to reach the clinical level on laser bonding of the cornea for the transplant of the cornea. And in Prato and Firenze, they perform more than 500 laser-assisted corneal transplant using this technique, providing lesser inflammation, a better astigmatism, what is important, a faster healing time. Then, similar to photodynamic therapy, we can use a chromophore, which is actually a nanoparticle, can be a magnetic nanoparticle that is excited by electromagnetic waves, or can be metallic nanoparticle, the so-called plasmonic nanoparticle that can be excited by light. And with this nanoparticle, you can imagine a perspective of a treatment where, for instance, you want to develop hyperthermia, which means you overheat in a specific way the cancer cell in order to have a treatment of cancer at cellular level. This can be done, for instance, by intravenous injection of the nanoparticle, and then they have to target in a very specific way cancer cell in respect to normal cell, and then shine light and obtain the apoptosis of the cells. There are many strategies to target cancer cell in a very specific manner. Here are some examples. You can put on board on the nanoparticle some antibodies which target some cancer biomarkers. You can target the environment of the cancer bulk. This was a patent done some years ago. Or you can load some cells of the immune system with this nanoparticle, and then use them like cellular vehicles to reach the tumor, and then shine light or electromagnetic waves and activate them. Okay, so about photonics, let's come back to photonics. Up to 2018, 2019, photonics was one of the key enabling technologies for industrial innovation, but with Horizon Europe, then photonics was included within digital technologies together with micro and nanoelectronics, and also artificial intelligence. I think it's very crucial, this merging with artificial intelligence, because photonics can provide a lot of data, because you can deal with image from diagnostics. They're vectoral imaging. They have a lot of information in this image. You can relate to spectra, to many other data that has to be processed using advanced systems like artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence is, in health and medicine, is almost a mature technology. It has many applications. There are many risks, as you may know. I am part of an ethics committee in Italy, and so I have to evaluate whether or not the application of artificial intelligence is corresponding to the application of a medical device. So whenever you use this artificial intelligence to diagnose some disease, you have to define it as a medical device with all the safety that a system like this has to have. And how important is the merging between photonics and artificial intelligence is here. This is a conference, very recent one. I helped to organize this conference in Jena, International Conference on Biophotonics. The title was Shining a Light on the Future of Biophotonics. And you can see here that the main topics were AI-driven biophotonics for infections, for advanced understanding of cell processes function, cardiovascular disease, well-being, neurodegenerative disease, cancer, and so on. So it's very important to understand that probably a future of biophotonics is in combination with artificial intelligence. And here is the final example of something that we are doing in our lab. We are studying nanosensor for early detection of Alzheimer's disease. These are based on spectroscopy, Raman spectroscopy, which is enhanced by some particular nanosensor, this silver nanowire. And they provide, if you want to diagnose the amyloid beta oligomers, which can be recognized as the main biomarker of Alzheimer's disease, you are dealing with nanomolar concentration, so you need a very sensitive system to detect them. If you take them, for instance, from the cerebrospinal fluid from the spine, okay, then you obtain this spectra, which is very complicated. So a way to disclose whether or not they correspond to the toxic phase of this amyloid beta protein is by using machine learning, and that helps to clusterize the healthy patient in respect to Alzheimer's disease patients. Okay, so at the end of my talk, I would like to thank Toscana Life Sciences, which is a foundation, a no-profit organization aimed to support research activities in the field of life science. And this organization is also coordinating the regional district of Tuscany for life sciences. And then we have a national level of coordinating all these regional clusters, which is called Cluster Alizé. And then the ecosystem which is the only one in the National Recovery and Resilience Plan dedicated to life science, and we participate to this initiative. And finally, PhotonHub Europe, all the partners from Tuscany, and I would like to thank all of you for your kind attention.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this insightful presentation on the best innovations on biophotonics. And now I would like to give the floor to Alejandro Dominguez for a presentation on investing in the future, opportunities and success criteria for photonics startups.
Thank
Alejandro,
you. Thank you, Laura. Thanks, everyone, for being here and for inviting me. First of all, I want to ask a question. Is there any investor in the room? Please raise your hand. Okay, so then you will need to believe me on what I'm about to say. But then we can benchmark what I am about to say. So, as Laura said, I am from Funding Box. We are a funding aggregator, both public and private funding. And we are part of PhotonHub. And we are taking the part in PhotonHub as connecting with investors and preparing the companies and getting ready with investors. So my two previous presenters have said a lot of things about photonics, so I just want to say that photonics is everywhere. So if you imagine detecting a disease early on before the symptoms appear, just by checking your skin with a light-based equipment, this is happening currently, and this is happening thanks to photonics. And as it was previously said, it's not only there everywhere. It's in your cell phone. It's actually in the optical fiber that is giving us internet. It's in the satellite communication. It's actually everywhere. But from the opportunity point of view, so what I'm about to tell you, this is huge. It's everywhere. So there's a huge market potential for it. So it's currently estimated to be around $1.6 trillion US, and it's going to reach almost double by 2029. So this is a huge investment opportunity. So all the companies that want to get on board and incorporate some photonics, there's a huge market for you waiting right out the door. And being a bit more specific, obviously, in terms of opportunities, it is broad, as I mentioned. So there are opportunities in the autonomous vehicles. So all the cameras that are driving our cars, our cameras and LiDAR sensors there, they are photonics-based, photonics-enabled, as Professor Roberto mentioned. It's in the manufacturing, all the visual inspection, checking of the quality of the materials, the parts that are produced. But in terms of healthcare, I mean, you are more experts than me, but Professor Roberto already pointed out that diagnostics, so if you want to have an early diagnostics of whatever disease, this is going to be enabled, and is enabled actually today by photonics. Therapeutics, wearables, we are all wearing, I mean, not all, not myself, but everyone more or less is wearing a smartwatch. This tiny device is having the capacity to check your heart rate, your blood pressure, your oxygen concentration, and this is thanks to photonics. So the market opportunity is huge. But I want to give you some hints, and forget me for being plain and simple, but I think if only the simple message stays, I think it's going to be an useful presentation. I don't want to bore anyone, but if we want to succeed in bringing some company to the market, there are some key factors that we need to take into consideration. Obviously, the innovation factor. This seems obvious, but it's not that much. So there are many researchers are having great ideas. I once was a researcher. I thought I had great ideas, but then jumping from a great idea to the market, this is non-trivial and not so easy to make. So that's also the point of PhotonHub. So you need to have a great idea, super innovative, but you need to make sure that you know the added value that you're bringing. So there's a problem, great, you identified that, but what's the solution and how much valuable is this for who are you targeting, right? The team, you need to have a great team in place. It needs to be experienced, knowledgeable, of course. I assume it would be. They are normally behind the inventions, so this is given. I forgot to say, obviously, one key factor is the intellectual property. So if you have your intellectual property well secured, this is a great recipe for success. But also regarding the team, it needs to be broad enough. So you shouldn't, many times startups and technical startups, they tend to forget about the other parts, you know, the financials. Who's going to deal with the money? It's not straightforward for technical people, particularly organizational stuff, HR. This is not straightforward. The market fit. So I was saying you should be aware of the problem that you are trying to solve and your solution, obviously. But are you sure that you are having, you are targeting a wide enough market, or is it's very niche, very small? So you need to also make sure that you get to contact and validate all of these ideas as soon as possible with the market. So to achieve this so-called market fit. Is the market needing what you're aiming to sell or not? This is also crucial. Scalability. This is also non-trivial. So I'll give you two examples of what I mean by scalability. Obviously, the more scalable you are, the more chances of success you're going to have. So if you imagine someone has a certain skill and is going to develop a training. So they're developing the videos, the materials, whatever, and you upload it to Coursera, Udemy, whatever online platform, right? So it takes you some effort. You prepare those materials, great, whatever time, 1 month, whatever. But for you, it's the same effort to teach one student than to teach 1,000 students. You're not going to invest 1,000 times the effort you made once, right? So this is, by definition, a very scalable business model. But on the other hand, let's have a look at an artisan making handcrafted wooden tables, right? They get an order, they make it, they get the materials, they make it, it takes them a week, whatever, they sell it, high price, low price, it doesn't matter. But they get another order and need to make it again. So if they have 100 orders, then they need to invest 100 times the effort. So this is not scalable by definition. Of course, with time they would get more and more proficient and improve their times and etc. But it's not a scalable business model. So again, a more scalable business model, it's much more prone to succeed, obviously. And then I want to highlight the strategic partnerships, and this is where also PhotonHub is key. You need to be able to pull a lot of actors from your ecosystem. You're very unlikely to succeed if you're alone. This is especially the case in deep tech. You know, so you're gonna start building something from scratch, being whatever hardware, whatever. It will take time. It will take effort. So you better partner up with someone else, which already has the knowledge and the capacity. So it will help you move quicker to the market. And from the other side, from the investors' side, what they're looking at normally, and I would just highlight 3 parts, is these 3. First, is it going to be the next big thing? this idea that you're going to sell me, is it disruptive enough? So is it going to be a game changer in the future? If it is, they're more likely to invest in your company and to support you along. Partnerships, are you, as I said before, do you have the right ecosystem surrounding you? Do you have the right RTOs, the right corporates, the right industrial associations are supporting you, giving their feedback? And also the market readiness. So how far are you from getting to the market? And this is particularly tricky in deep tech, right? So this is a very capital intensive industry. It needs a lot of money up front. So there is this chicken and egg problem. How do you arrive to a proof of concept if you don't have the money to arrive to the proof of concept? So this is where schemes of financing like the EU is trying to foster could help. But you need to be aware of that. So if your solution, if your product or your service is going to need some clinical trials, some FDA approvals, this is going to get longer and you're going to need more money. So just be aware of that. And if you're going to discuss it with investors, just be straightforward and transparent, and for sure you can onboard them not only for giving you the money, but for supporting you. And just I would like to point out that within PhotonHub, we were, as I said, supporting companies in getting closer to investors. And I want to highlight a couple of the companies that we were supporting. I know Natalie has shown a lot of them. In this case, I'm showing two. One of them is MEEP. This is from the cohort of more than 70 companies that we have supported within PhotonHub to get closer to investors. MEEP is a Belgian company that they actually won the pitching contest that we organized in Munich in 2023 in the startup arena. And they are making diagnostics, in vitro diagnostics of several markers. And they are doing this thanks to Photonics. It's a tiny device powered by Photonics and microfluidic and some analytics. And the other one, GlucoActive, is a different one. So this is not from the PhotonHub. This is actually from our venture capital fund, from Funding Box ones. They are Polish and they are in the glucose analysis. So they are making a device so you can test your glucose levels at home. Super easy, quantitative, high quality, so you don't need to go to the doctor. And I want to highlight that they are now in the process of raising the next round of funds. And you see the transversality of Photonics. They started from making this glucose testing device, but they said, you know, this technology can be applied for the chemical industry. So they are now approaching the chemical industry with the same kind of development, and they're gonna expand and grow into a different direction. So you see the transversality there. And that's mainly what I wanted to say. I just wanted to say that if you need help in moving along the TRL and getting closer to the market and to the investors, just reach out to PhotonHub, reach out to us. And if you have any question, just you can shoot me an email or just catch me afterwards, all right? That's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Alejandro.
Thank you.
Thank you for these comprehensive guides on the investment landscape for photonics startup. So now we will move to the second part of this workshop, which is a roundtable. The roundtable is about collaboration and innovation in the photonics sector, synergies between research, industry, and finance. So I invite our speaker here. The space is not that big, but we need to pay attention to the border, but for the rest we can. So I invite Natalie De Bas, Roberto Pini, Alejandro Dominguez, and Lorenzo Targetti from Light for Tech. Lorenzo Targetti is the founder of a startup focusing on photonics for life science. So within this roundtable, we would like to touch the topic of open innovation and how open innovation can act as a catalyst for a cross-sector partnership and the partnership between academia, research, industry, and funding opportunities. I will have a list of questions, of course. This is the round table it consists on. Each one has really short time to answer. I'm sorry for that, but there are tight schedules, and so we need to be on time. So for each question, you will have 4 minutes for answering. Sorry for this. So I will start with Nathalie. And the first questions, it's a group of questions indeed, and is about how does open innovation facilitate deeper collaboration between research institutions, industry, and startups, and what specific models of open innovation have proven successful in transforming early stage research into commercial application in the life science? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for this question. I think it's also an important question to really bridge between research and industry. Because in research, like Roberto has also shown, there is a lot of developments that can be useful to be taken up by industry. And so to foster that interaction, I think there are some important key elements. And one is, and that what we have also learned during all the years that we have had projects to bridge that gap, is that the researchers should first listen also to what is the need from the industry, what are the market requirements, and then to really fill with their knowledge the gap towards industry. Because before it was more like, I have invented something and I want to push it to the market, while indeed with their knowledge they can bring something to industry and to the market, but first listen to that. Furthermore, another important aspect is about the maturity of the technology that is used. And that is also linked to the scalability. If you have a very nice working prototype that fulfill all the requirements, but you cannot make it in a higher quantity, then you are also not there, and then you maybe have to go back to your drawers. And that's making use of mature technology that has the capability to scale up is very important. And I think also it's important to listen to the industry and to have an increased engagement with the industry and to really make like long collaborations. And we see that also in PhotonHub. We have companies that are coming back. There is a trust that is also important and that you can build up experience. I hope that gives some answers to your question.
Thank you very much, Nathalie. And I'm going towards the startup, so Lorenzo Targetti, the next questions are for you. As a startup working with photonics technologies in the life science sector, what has been your approach to partnering with larger companies or companies in general terms and research institutions? And then can you provide an example of how open innovation has helped you overcome early stage challenges such as, for instance, limited resources or market access? Quite complicated, I guess, in 4 minutes, but...
Yes, good evening. I would say that, as Roberto Pini says, photonics is a key enabling technology, so it's transversal. Usually address complex problems, and it's impossible to have in a single organization, small or large, all the competencies and the knowledge necessary to have a good answer. So open innovation is essential to find the right solution and to create the problem, to solve the problem. All the problems that you are connected, because usually there is no only one single problem. And as a startup, we develop a medical device using photonics for therapeutics, and would have been impossible without the collaboration, for example, with CNR, that supported all the early phases of the technology and help us. And then further down the line, all the other actors that intervene in the development of the product. So this is essential. Unfortunately, there are certain limitations on developing this type of technologies. One, for example, is a precariousness sometimes of the resources that the research center has. I mean, the people are the essential element in research. And you cannot work on biannual or triannual contracts with the perspective that the people who support you and is leaving. So how industry can invest serious without having the knowledge of continuity, for example. This is one aspect that I think should be addressed in some way. And also the aspect is financing. There is a fantastic concept of TLR, as the technology level readiness. And unfortunately, still, I think we should work on innovation on the way to finance all those steps. Because there are solutions for the 1 to 4, there are solutions when you're at 9, and still the famous graveyard of great ideas is the 6 to 9 point, where still there are two traditional ways of thinking. And maybe we should reconsider different ways of finding resources for this type of activity, that especially in health science, health application is the most capital intensive and the most dangerous also.
Thank you, Lorenzo Targetti. And now I will ask to Roberto Pini, how does open innovation allow research institutions like CNR, IFAC, to co-create with an industry? Also through spin-offs, of course, and of course in the sector of life science, focusing on the sector of life science, and how can researchers better align their work with the needs of business through the open innovation scheme?
Yeah, the importance of open innovation is already underlined by the colleagues before me, and I would like to stress two aspects. One is something like a self-criticism from our side of researchers, that most of us has to be clear how long they want to bring research, but let's say innovation when we are working with companies, how long you want to support them, because it's not just an idea that starts everything. So we have to be aware that there are different phases. Funds are very important. So it's, we don't get money directly from our home institution. We have to apply for projects. We have to apply at different levels, at European level, at national level, at regional level, local level, and so on. And in my opinion, it's very important to find a place where we can test our ideas and the ideas that are coming from the industries to carry out demonstration and prototyping of these ideas. And this is the starting point. I mean, because I am a researcher, I can write down a Horizon Europe project which is very challenging, complicated, a lot of vision for the future. But this is not very close to the needs of the companies. So from our point of view of researcher, we have to do something like a downgrading, a downscaling of what is innovation is the real one needed by companies. Sometimes you have to solve simple problem, but you have to give your time to do that. So in our case, it's very important to understand that we can support companies and from this point of view, PhotonHub Europe can be very important because the amount of money they can provide is not that large, but is sufficient to prototype, to test ideas. This is something that we have to do if we want to initiate a process. Then it takes a very, very long time. As I said, I'm part of an ethics committee, so you have to certify your technologies, your methodology. It takes a long time. And then there is a problem to find funds. And as you know, in Italy, it's not very easy to find venture capital. But nevertheless, I mean, you have to test many ideas. You don't have to start with the best idea of the world and say, this is my idea, I want to carry out only this one. So we have to start from this position. I mean, this is a self-criticism from our side.
A relevant point. And Alejandro, from an investor's perspective, how does open innovation impact the evaluation on photonics startups, particularly in the life science sector? And how important is collaboration with research institutions and enterprises in the decision of to fund early stage companies?
Yeah, so I think two questions are connected, and obviously from an investor point of view, the partnerships and the collaborations are key because they are helping de-risking the investment. So if you see that the company has a great idea but is not alone, then you're more likely to invest in the company, because in the end, what an investor likes is to put some money and get it after some time. It's plain and simple like that, right? And I think sometimes we tend to forget that. So the more collaborations there are, the less risky the investment is for them. But at the same time, the open innovation helps this company, helping in the risking by accelerating the innovation. So you are getting to market closer because you are partnering up with the research institution, with the people that has the resources or the labs or whatever. So this is a twofold scenario, right? So it's helping making the decision of an investor to invest in, but it's also increasing the value of the company, because it's much more likely like this, that this investment will pay off in a certain time. And I would like to point out that in this case, sometimes we should not look at the TRL so much, but also as what is called CRL, so customer readiness level. So it's more like Natalie was saying, so it's not so much about pushing your invention, but more about understanding who needs what and how ready is for them, how likely are they going to test it, right? So, yeah.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So we will be in the second round of the questions, and again for Natalie. And let's touch the European dimension, and let's say from a strategic European perspective, how does open innovation help startups bridge the gap between research and market entry in the photonics and life science sectors? And what are the challenges in fostering this kind of cross-border collaboration, and how maybe PhotonHub is addressing them?
Okay. I think this question also refers to just the previous one, and Alejandro talked about the custom readiness level. And what we are also using in PhotonHub is the investment readiness level. So indeed, if you want to have a nice product and you increase your technology readiness level, that only does not will guarantee you the success, because you have to match what's needed on the market, and therefore the investment readiness level is quite important. And that is what we do also in PhotonHub to make that successful, that also the innovation can go to the market, is to add there also business support, coaches that prepare the companies to investors. And that's why we have also like funding box on board among other business support partners. And you address also the cross-border. I think in Europe we make really an advantage if we can look really cross-border, because it's not only that you can find there partners that can improve your technology, but also your market. And with collaborating with a partner in another country, you can also make links and networks to that market in that country. So I think that's also important. And we have seen it also like an example, the timpani example, that Irish researchers, they had a great idea. They teamed up with first Act Fast for researchers, where we leveraged their demonstrator, but at the same time, we gave them entrepreneurial skills to really be ready to talk to investors. And now they have received support in PhotonHub. So it's also like taking them with the hand, in fact, and on the journey of innovation.
Thank you, Natalie. So I'm going back to the startup, so to Lorenzo Targetti, asking something that has already been anticipated in your previous answer, but as a startup scaling photonics-based solution in life science, this can be challenging. And what specific barriers have you encountered in terms of funding, scaling, or accessing expertise? And how have collaborations with maybe enterprises and larger enterprises, if it is the case, or research institutions have helped you navigate these barriers?
I have only 4 minutes, so barriers, many. But I think the most important and the biggest barrier that we have in Italy, but I think is a challenge for all Europe, is that there is no road for innovation in healthcare. Okay, so there is no a specific formalized, well diffused road to bring a product, an innovative product, in the market and be adopted in the healthcare system. There are Italy has no program at all. There is a recent survey from Europe. Actually Confindustria Europe. They did a survey on systems in each country. The most sophisticated is France, with 7 programs, okay? In fact, France was one of the lighthouse in photonics, and it wasn't there 50 years ago. They built an industry, a medical sector, out of their introduction programs. And so I think, but there is no one unified European system. So even if you are successful in introducing a product in Europe, in Italy, that doesn't mean you are going to be successful in Spain, Portugal, France, Germany. And this is, I think, is an incredible limitation for the development of a serious medical device industry, a European strong one, competing to US or Asia. And this is so if we start focusing, Europe should really focus on an innovation introduction method that is clear for everybody, for start-upper, for investors. So even connecting investment level at the introduction stages, it would be safer for everybody and clear and faster. Maybe reduce that time gap enormously.
Thank you. Now it's the turn of Alejandro Dominguez, and I think Alejandro wanted to answer also to the question, add some inputs.
Yeah, so. I'm curious if, in your opinion, because with the turmoil and all of the geopolitics, with the supply chain after the pandemic and the war with China, etc., now the US is pulling their CHIPS Act, so to be independent geopolitically. Europe is doing the same, and Japan is doing the same. So, do you think, in that sense, the medical sector would need someone to say, "Hey, this is where we need to go to be somehow building something that is reliable in Europe or in every country in Europe"? Do you think this could be a way, or?
Yeah, of course, I'm talking about the medical device sector, not the pharmaceutical. Sure. Sector, which is different. Definitely, yes, and I think Europe should take that lead. I think the big step has been the MDR regulation, the new system, regulatory system, which has been hated by the whole industry, but I think is the first step, the quality assessment, to now, that was the stick, now we should need the carrots. So really to leverage with that system to establish an introduction method that even adopting, making universal what has been successful country by country in certain experience, both in vitro diagnostic, medical devices, management, also procedures. And I think, we talk about the health technology assessment. It's a big word, there are books written, publications, but still, it's purely theoretical because nobody has established a unified, clear, transparent method.
Thank you. And so Alejandro, let's continue with your questions. How can open innovation frameworks attract more investment in photonics startup working in life science? And are there specific funding models that investors see as more encouraging for collaboration across sectors? And how do those models influence the long-term growth of startups? Quite complicated as well. But
yeah, long one.
Thank
you. So I think to the first question, how the open innovation can help in getting more investment, I think it's similar to what I said before. So this open innovation will help the de-risking of whatever endeavor is going to come. So it's definitely going to ease the job of the investor, because at the end of the day, the investor doesn't know, it's not going to know your field as you know it, but they know of what they can get, and they probably can get you to the customers. So the investors normally, they are not only giving money, but they are helping you moving forward with some partnerships, right? And in terms of the funding models, I think the European Commission actually is a good example, because a few years back they had this scheme which was called the SME instrument in phase 1, phase 2, which was made for companies to apply and scale up, first test the ideas and then scale up. They were giving up to something like 2 million euros in grants, right? But then they changed it. So the European Investment Council changed this, and they started the mixed scheme. So they are now giving some grants, but they are also incorporating investors. So because this is the only way it makes sense for, I was actually talking to some people today, and they're willing to, in this particular field, is very capital intensive, as you know, and this is gonna need, if you're gonna scale up, this is gonna be, we're talking about 5 million, 10 million euros, and no grant could give you that. It's too risky also from a public money point of view, so you need to incorporate the private investors. But from the point of view of the private investor, it's good that there is a public institution there, because again, it's reducing the risk. You have the seal, you have in a way been approved by someone else, so this is good, and it turns out that it's working well, this EIC accelerator at the moment. Yeah.
Thank you, Alejandro. So, Roberto Pini, the last couple of questions for you. Open innovation often involves shared ownership of intellectual property rights and knowledge. And how does this dynamic influence the way in which research and academic institutions approach collaboration with industry? And what can be done to make this partnership more effective in life science?
Okay. Well, first of all, I mean, the shared ownership of intellectual property can be at the same time, can complicate collaboration between researchers and the industry, but can also speed up this collaboration. So it depends. I mean, I'm again, from the point of view of the researchers, and the researcher has to be aware that intellectual property is the most important way for companies to protect their innovation. So whenever you speak with a company about a new idea, a new technology, the first question is, how can I transfer it if this is not protected already? So this is a question that every researcher who wants to collaborate with industry has to be in mind, I mean, before starting this collaboration. So it's very important, and I used to say to my colleagues, my young colleagues, that sometimes you have to be patient, wait a few months and make the patent, and protect your innovation, then write down the paper. While from the standard point of view, a researcher, you want to publish, you want to diffuse your innovation, your research as soon as possible. And this is very important. From my point of view, I mean, I am one in the CNR who did quite a large number of patents, more than 20, but a very limited number of them reached the exploitation. And this is because, I mean, there are a lot of combination of situations. There are companies, there are funds, there are ideas that are not good and so on, or something that can stop only at a certain level of the development. But it's important that whenever you want to transfer, you have to protect this innovation. On the other side, also, researcher has to be, they had to apply some caution when sharing knowledge. They have to know that there are some rights that have to be protected. They have to have a vision about the future of their innovation. So this is very important. And I think that whenever you are familiar with this vision, I mean, everything is simple. I mean, you can find a better contact with companies, and you understand their needs, I mean, since the beginning, and this is very important. Now, what about something that can help? I mean, the collaboration, in my opinion, is very important that collaboration is shared with all the stakeholders that are involved in the process. Because when we are in our lab, I mean, we have our idea, and our idea is not tested together to many other people. I've been working in the medical field for about 40 years. Whenever I develop a device, there is something like a handpiece that has to be used somewhere, and this has to be used under the surgical microscope, and the surgeon says, but it doesn't fit in. I mean, I cannot use it. So you don't have to wait that that device is already designed and sometimes put on the market to have the feedback that this technology is not the proper one for this particular application. You have to work together with the users, with the final users. You have to know which are the problems. And then there is all the problem related to the economic part, to the support and so on. But also limiting this vision to the technological part, you have to create a multidisciplinary group of researchers in order to understand all the projects, because a friend of mine told me that whenever you want to reach the clinical application, it's just a series of doors that have to be open in sequence. If one is closed, you stop there. So you have the vision of all the part that has to, of the obstacles that you have to have go on and to have to overcome in order to reach the result. I mean, and this is not a clear vision for most of the researchers. And I think we have to train this thing at the university, I mean, together with the basic knowledge about science.
And is it smooth as a process once you have understood that it's necessary to involve all the stakeholders? Is it easy, or has some problems as well?
I mean,
involving stakeholders in this.
When we create a partnership, we have to know, I mean, that we have representatives from all the parts. I mean, the people involved in the business, people involved in the using, in the commercializing, engineering. I mean, because sometimes we think that something is already engineered. As you may know, there is a box like this. It doesn't work. I mean, you have to redesign it. So there are many steps. I mean.
Okay, thank you very much. Since you were very good in timing, so if you would like to add some points, each of you, or to exchange some additional points, it will be welcome. So a comment from each of you.
I can add something to what Professor just said. I think it's super important to involve the customer early on, and sometimes connected to the IP, it is seen as risky. You know, you don't want to disclose your idea too early, so you are kind of afraid of disclosing things. But at the same time, unless you disclose it, you might end up, waiting 2 years and you have developed something that doesn't make any sense. So we are, at Fundingbox, we are firm believers in the lean startup methodology and testing early on. And many times we are actually helping the beneficiaries of the money. When the money is gone, we try to help them so they are closer to the market and they have validated things. And they need to talk to the clients. It's the only way to learn. So, and this is what we were discussing before, the customer readiness level and also the investment readiness level. So this is essential in this field and in many others. Yeah.
Yeah. What we often also encounter when we are working with researchers that have great ideas, if we ask in which particular market would you see your application, then often we receive the answer, oh, it's applicable in many applications. You can use it everywhere. That's really the strength everywhere. But then it is really to make choices, because if you want to meet really the needs of a particular segment, you have to focus on what they think that is important. And it's not only what your technology is then capable of offering, but it's also give it an answer to that particular application field.
Just to add something about that, I mean, being part of an ethics committee, I see that whenever you want to demonstrate the use of some technology in a certain field, I mean, you have to define very well the intended use, the application field. And this is crucial. I mean, you can develop your technology, and then you have to pass through this small door where you have to say, okay, this has to be used for this specific application, because you have to demonstrate that it's better than the other technology which is available on the market. Because otherwise, we are not involving patients, because this is not ethic. So you have to demonstrate that this specific use is improving the application, the diagnosis, the early diagnosis of diseases and so on, is better than the state of the art. So it is very important to understand, to focus on the clear application. This sometimes is more important than the device itself sometimes, because you have to propose something new that can really help the system, the health system, to have a step forward. So it's very important to have clear the finalization of this technology.
Yes. But I think that it's important that everybody does his own job. I mean, do we really want to change the mind of a researcher to become an expert on IP protection and a marketing manager and, managing focus group with customers? I think that everybody should have his own role. So researcher, they should research and publish, because that's what they are meant to do, and they are measured on that, and they're paid for that, correct? Because if they don't publish, then they don't go up in their career and so on. So other people should take responsibility from that. And I think that's why PhotonHub is a great opportunity, because you can put together people with different competencies, each one with his own competence, and talk to each other. Maybe they should listen, but not discover by themselves. And this is the first aspect. Second, I think that IP protection is overvalued. And this is the responsibility of that is the finance guys. Because when you ask for a penny, if you don't have an IP, you see immediately the face, they close down, they shut the door.
That's true.
You know, you can have the most fascinating things in the world, they shut the door. Yeah. And I think it's an old way of thinking. Sorry.
Yeah.
Or when it comes to photonics, has its own limits.
Yeah. Let me give you an example which goes in your direction. Actually, I was super surprised that I was speaking to a researcher of TUE, the Technical University of Eindhoven. They are close to Philips and they're super innovative. And she told me, we at TUE, we don't patent anymore. And I said, okay, this is new. And she said, we don't patent because the amount of effort, first, if you patent, you are disclosing your invention in a way, so someone can copy it. But then, if they copy it, then are you going to chase them? It takes a lot of money to chase them. So basically, we are not patenting. We are publishing, so we are preventing anyone else from getting a patent. So it's kind of the open source community and this idea, right? But
think about Arduino.
Yeah. But they are huge technical university, and they're going in that direction. So
in the complexity of the solutions that we develop in photonics, really is the patent protection the only instrument that we can guarantee the fact that have an edge on the product and the solution and so on. I see it as a very shortened way. Also because the way that patent is conceived, it's kind of, not really adaptive to the technology we are managing. But anyway, this is just a little small provocation. Already the Americans that give 1 year after publication for still patenting would help, for example. No? Europe doesn't have that opportunity. Again, so you can publish and then run but anyway.
So thank you very much for these last exchanges, and I wish we had more time, because it seems that as far as we go ahead, there are lots of things that should be discussed together and among you. So it's a pity for that, but we hope that we will have additional future opportunities. I would just like to thank you for this interesting, really, workshop. And I would like to update and to remind to the audience that tomorrow there will be the last stage of the Startup Breeze, which is a competition with which PhotonHub has cooperated. And in fact, PhotonHub will grant a prize to the startup which was evaluated as having more potential in terms of photonics. So tomorrow we will know who will be the winner as far as the PhotonHub award. And this award will provide support for a 2-month mentoring to the startups winning. So that's all. Thank you again for your presence, and thank you.